Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be together. There were so many opportunities for community together throughout the entire process here since March. And we've missed some of that over the past few weeks of the summer. I hope people have had the opportunity, though, to relax, recharge, rejuvenate a little bit. And it's just nice to have everybody here. I'd like to kind of like describe what the plan is for this evening. We're going to, well, I believe that there we go. The annotation should be removed from the screens, please. This evening the meeting is going to take about 45 minutes. Our goal is to start right now. We'll be done by about, let's say 9:15. Latest is going to go to about 9:30. We ask people to use the chat. Feel free to use the chat, and we'll try to answer questions as much as we can that are in that chat. And if we can't answer them in the chat, we will continue to keep track of all the questions that people ask, and then we will kind of get back to you with that. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about the plan for reopening tonight. I'm going to talk a bit. Rabbi Hartzog's going to talk a bit, and then towards the end, Nurse Russi Bohm is going to talk. What I'd like to do here is our evening is being broken up into three stages. I'm going to talk about our commitment, safe and healthy school entry, and then we're going to talk about the school experience. Our commitment. Let me explain to you by way of introducing this year's theme. This year's theme is Achrayut. You know, every year in SAR, we have a theme of the year. This past year, let's see if I can, any parents want to throw into the chat. Perhaps you can tell if any parent knows what the theme was, this year. Gratitude, that was Nick. Oh, very good. Okay, good. Alon Kraus, it's not fair. You are a teacher in the school. So it was gratitude in the academy, and it was simcha in the high school. That is true. What I'd like to talk about, though, this upcoming year, our theme is Achrayut, and Achrayut means responsibility. And I want to kind of use that to frame this evening's conversation as I speak about what it is that we're going to be doing as we responsibly open our school for this upcoming year. So in March, when SAR had the honor of being the first school to experience COVID in the country, essentially closing down before anybody else closed down, and we became something of a kind of a test case. Everybody's starting to follow us, and we became something of the industry standard. I'll say it like this: we were well prepared. We had a team of teachers and professionals in our tech department who led us, who assured us. They made sure that SAR was going to be at the forefront of responsible, incredible, creative Zoom education. And we were. We felt that there were so many people, different schools reaching out to us, asking for advice. We felt that in many ways we were setting the industry standard, not only within the yeshiva high school world, but within educational world throughout the United States. And that was something we were very proud of. And we felt that sense of achrayut last year of creating the most incredible product that we could create on Zoom so that our students would be able to experience everything that was an SAR education the best way possible. And I think that I'm not exaggerating when I say that we pulled it off pretty well. We pulled it off really well. And I think that there were many people who doubted whether it could be pulled off in as efficient and elegant and educationally, kind of robust sort of way, but we actually did it. And I think many of us were even a little more impressed with ourselves than we expected ourselves to be. But that level of responsibility, that achrayut that people showed over the course of the second half of the school year, teachers working hours and hours, reconfiguring their lessons, figuring out how to adapt to technology. Our tech department working 24/7, 24/6, excuse me. Our entire school community, parents volunteering to help other families that were in need. Everybody stood up and cared for each other in the most profound sort of way. And we really see that theme that people expressed last year as being the theme that we're going to kind of like home in on for this year, particularly as we talk about our reopening plan. This is not a reopening plan that is easy. This is the kind of plan that I will say people have spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours working together to try to create what will be the most extraordinary reopening plan, an educational system for the students of SAR High School that parents will be proud of. We will all be safe, and we will all responsibly be able to manage the real SAR High School experience. Now, in order to do so, let's be honest, this is going to take achrayut, responsibility. This is the kind of thing where teachers are stepping up, parents are stepping up, and kids are going to have to step up also. This is not the kind of thing that is going to work if it's just a bunch of teachers cajoling kids to make sure that we're going to be responsible and take care of this educational process that's going to be the reopening of SAR High School. This is a mission. SAR High School is a mission-driven school. We are a place where ideas matter, where we love our school with all of our heart, and we are relying on kids, teachers, and parents to really be able to express this achrayut, to step up and to show our entire school community, as well as, I believe, the entire yeshiva high school world out there in the country, as to how we can pull this off in the most remarkable, responsible, and healthy way. I'm just really, really excited about what this is that we're going to do. All the stakeholders are excited about stepping up and showing the achrayut, and we're going to go into detail as to how we are responsibly going to manage this process. And with that, I hand off the first part of this process to Rabbi Hartstark.
Thank you, Rabbi Kroll. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. In the next couple of minutes, what I would like to do is to talk about the principles and kind of concrete protocols that are going to drive a safe and healthy return to school, and also talk about the physical space and the enhancements and the work that we've done in order to be able to ready ourselves for the coming year. I do want to reiterate or start with a couple of the basic principles that drove the decision making in terms of how we are managing the day and the space. To echo something Rabbi Kroll said, we are very strongly committed to the social, emotional, physical, cognitive well-being of our students and our faculty. That means ensuring a safe and healthy environment and an enriching environment on all of those fronts, and that is vitally important. We have the two driving principles in setting up the space is number one, ensuring for flexibility. That means that, as you know, we have been preparing for having 3 grades in the building at one time and 1 grade on Zoom. It is important to stress, or continue to stress, that we have very deliberately created a plan that will allow us to be maximally flexible, which means that, God willing, when we are all healthy and ready to go back full time, we could do that in a moment. We could also host 2 grades at a time. We could go to Zoom, whatever it is that's necessary. And so in talking about these 3 grades at once and the framework that we're talking about, I want to make sure that it's clear that that is that ensuring flexibility is absolutely important for us. Two, in terms of what is driving us is that on the high school level, it is vitally important for kids to be able to learn from teachers who are expert at their level, which means that it is really important for kids to be able to learn at a level that is appropriate for them with teachers who are expert in their field. And for that reason, we are maintaining the basic framework of school life, which means the subject matters, the basic framework of the day and the levels that students are going to have will remain intact as normal. As you'll hear, the day will be shorter. There'll be many changes to the physical space, but that is the basic framework that we are holding on to. I do want to report that also it's important to say that the Department of Education, the DOE, published guidelines for non-public schools today, and it was actually gratifying to review what we are doing in light of what they put forward, because we are absolutely in line and I think in a very, very good place as far as that is concerned. Everything that we are sharing and more will be in a guidebook that is a welcome back guide that will be hopefully sent out by week's end. So please keep an eye out for that. And you don't have to take notes now. It'll come through all this and more will come in writing later. Now, the driving principles, there are 7 of them in terms of how it is that we have created a safe and healthy space for re-entry to school. Number 1, of course, is social distancing, which means 6 feet in class at all times. We'll talk in a moment about how the space is going to work to allow for that to happen. Masks at all times for students and faculty. That means not shields, but masks. Surgical masks or cloth masks in the building and inside and outside, so long as social distancing is not possible, which means there can be space for taking a breather, taking off a mask. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, either outside or at certain moments over the course of the day. But generally, this is what Rabbi Kohl was referring to before. The idea of wearing masks at all times during the day is of vital importance. That's number 2. 3, there will be basic protocols around hygiene, which means having Purell hand all around the building, increased maintenance staff to make sure that the bathrooms and spaces are clean, wiping down desks in between period, protocols to make sure that that's happening properly. We are working with Rubna company to make sure that we have a self-monitoring app that is in place. We're going to ask all students, parents to monitor as part of attendance before they leave to school, to send in, to answer the survey and respond as part of the attendance protocol when students come into school in the morning. We will talk a little bit later about how the entrances, the arrival is going to be set up, but there will be staff members at each door and students will have to show their app that reflects that they have responded to the survey in order to gain entry into the building. We are going to we are setting up a process for contact tracing. What should that be necessary? That is part of the reason why we've divided the grade into zones to ensure that we can trace, mitigate, limit interaction and be able to trace that interaction should that be necessary. And we are also going to ask all families in carpools to register, for example, in order to ensure that we can trace how people got to school, with who students have interacted, etc. We are putting in signage. That is the 6th factor across the building. The signage is most significantly in each classroom on the floor. There will be a mark where students will know exactly where their chair should be placed. There will be circles marking the floor where 6 feet apart, so students can know if they have a moment to sit on a floor. We're going to be using the gym in that way as well, and there will be marking 6 feet apart for social distancing, so that will be very clear in class and outside of class exactly where a student can be and where the student next to, I'm talking to, or sitting with for lunch needs to be. And finally, testing. We are working on contracting, hopefully with Northwell Health, for a quick turnaround on PCR tests, which we intend to use for those who are symptomatic. Russi will speak about that later, but being able to create a system where if someone needs to be tested, is not feeling well, that we will have a system in place to be able to test and to have a quick turnaround so that we can respond accordingly for the student and for the people around the student. So social distance, masks, hygiene, self-monitoring, tracing, signage, and testing. Those are the driving factors. The mask wearing and social distance is of vital, vital importance. The idea here is that our children should be able to come back to school, feel like they are connecting again with their teachers and with their peers while respecting the mask wearing, social distancing, and other protocols in a way to ensure safety and also allow for growth on all of those levels: intellectual, cognitive, social, religious, etc. And to be clear for a moment about the mask wearing, students will be expected, as I said, to wear surgical or cloth masks throughout the day, in and outside the building, other than in a controlled social distance circumstance. As part of what our high school staff is going to be doing, in high school, we usually don't have arrival, dismissal, lunch, recess duty. This year, all of those things are going to be in place because part of our collective responsibility for each other is to make sure that those protocols are being respected. We are going to provide, again, a space for, and we'll be clear about that when students can, for a few seconds, for a short number of seconds in the class, be able to take a breather or to have a space where they can go. And of course, lunch protocols we'll just talk about a little bit later. I do want to be very clear to echo what Rabbi Kroll said earlier. A student may only be in the school building wearing a mask, and a student who has a hard time with that, it's really simple. We're going to say you have to be home and learn on Zoom. We will talk a little bit later that all classes will be set up for that, for anyone who needs to be home and learning from Zoom. But the idea of, in order to be a student in the building, these have to be respected. That is of the absolute utmost importance. So those are the guiding principles in terms of creating a safe and healthy environment. And we are, as I said, just to repeat, going to and are very conscious of the safety on the one hand, but also creating a space for students to be able to, and for faculty, to be able to breathe. And one of the things, I'll say it again at the end, but it's worth saying now, wearing the mask is something that we all get increasingly used to with practice, which means it takes time and it is uncomfortable, but it is also true that as we wear it more, we become used to it and it becomes more part of our clothing, and we have to think about it in that way for this coming piece of time. So those are the, I'll say, non-material kind of driving factors in the school. I want to talk a little bit about the physical space and what we're doing to be able to make that habitable. It's a little hard maybe to see in that drawing, but we are creating 3 zones. The 3 zones will allow for each grade in the building to have a space of their own, such that once the student comes into the building, they will be interacting with their grade in their zone. There will be no reason to go up or down, many staircases. I'll explain in a moment, but there won't be a reason to do a lot of moving around the building other than during lunch, where we will have a plan for how the grade will move down the stairs. But this is just about, in terms of the physical space that they're on, one zone will be on the second and third floor. That's the second floor where the Beit Knesset, Beit Midrash is, and the third floor, the 9th grade floor, that is a zone. The 4th floor, which has both the kind of old 4th floor, I'll call it, and the annex, there are many spaces there, and that will be able to hold a grade. The 5th and 6th floor will also will be its own zone. So there are 3 zones. Once students arrive in the building and go to their zone, they will remain in that zone for their classes. And if someone on the 2nd floor needs to go on the 3rd floor, there'll be an up staircase one direction, a down staircase in the other direction, such that we are also, and part of the signage is to create flows of traffic so students know which way they are walking. And our basic guiding principle is that social distancing is vital for extended periods of time. 15, when students are together for, officially it's 15, we'll say 10 or more minutes, for shorter periods of time in between classes as they're walking by each other. When they are, so the enforcement of the masks is vitally important because it is for a short period of time. That is very much within guidelines to have that happen. So our plan is each grade will be in a zone. Students will, if they need to, walk up the flight of stairs to the other, kind of the second of their floors, walk down the other flight of stairs when they need to. Next, we have part of the school's investment has been to redesign the classrooms in order to allow for our class sizes to exist in a socially distanced way. That does not mean, 6 feet, but 4 feet if you need to. It's 6 feet at least. And we have extended out the 4 classrooms on the floor, what we call O1, O2, O3, O4. They will go all the way out to the atrium. There's a line of pillars. We essentially have expanded each of the classrooms by 1/3 so that they can, in a socially distanced way, be together in class, again, masked. We are also providing, what I call, talk about it, but I guess I'll just say it, mics for teachers so that they can project easily, and so that will be able to, in terms of being able to hear each other, that should not be an impediment, that should work. The classrooms actually look great. My suspicion is, if we were betting, that the over-under is that we are very possibly going to keep what we've done, because this isn't just a short term, but even a longer, it seems like an interesting shift. And in other spaces, we're using large spaces like the Beit Knesset, and we've made 1 classroom out of 2 in some other areas in the building. So that is 3 zones, some construction to create space. I want to talk a moment about HVAC. Filtration air, fresh air is of vital importance. If all of the other things are part of what we need to do on a daily basis, part of what we are working on is improving the HVAC system in a number of ways. We are working with a company, DERIVE Engineers. And here I just want to also express tremendous hakarat tov to Esther Sperber and Hila Stern, who worked as part of our architectural committee, and to our medical advisory team and committee, who have just spent so many hours to help put all of this together. As far as HVAC is concerned, we're working in 3 distinct areas. One is to increase the amount of fresh air that is taken into the building through the system. Second, and distinct from the first, is a disinfectant filtration system, which as a filtering system, when the air circulates within the building, it draws air back into the system and out, that it should be able to filter that in order to catch virus, and bipolar ionization, which is another, when the virus attaches to substance, it should be able to filter it out as well. So upgrading the HVAC system is, again, something that is of vital importance now, and will be an upgrade for the long-term health of the community. Signage, I mentioned it briefly, I just want to say it again. The signage is vital. That means there'll be signs around the building. First of all, in terms of reminding about protocols, which is wear a mask, socially distance 6 feet, wash your hands, use the Purell, all of those, as well as the markings on the floor to direct the traffic flow, as well as where students can and may sit. And that will be in all of the classroom central areas, the gym, etc. And we are also exploring, I think Rabbi Cole talked about that a little bit, how to best make use of our outdoor space. And the Beit Midrash also will be us, we hope to set up that space so that our fellows, rather than the way that we know it with tables all over the Beit Midrash, we're going to set it up so that there'll be fellows can have their socially distanced groups. What we're trying to communicate through all of this is that to be able to have the environment, which is SAR, in a way that will definitely feel different in substantial ways. And it's going to take, as Rabbi Cole said, everyone being all in to be able to make it work. But we are committed to being able to make it work in a way that feels like SAR. So those are the driving kind of principles in the physical space. Can I ask Rabbi Kroll to talk about inside the classroom and outside the classroom? Rabbi Kroll.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rabbi Hartstrack. A couple of things I'll just mention just because I think sometimes interesting for parents to kind of step behind the kind of the curtain a little bit and see what's going on. I know that Rabbi Hartstrack and I were both amazed by our meeting with the engineers who are working on the HVAC system. It's not, I think I've mentioned to some people, it's not typically the kind of background I had in smicha or in education, in education school about HVAC systems, but it was tremendously fascinating. And there really is a lot that can be done that is in the best interests of our school, not just in the world of COVID-19, but I think going forward, it's going to be a healthier place, healthier environment in the school. Once we move beyond the madness that we're currently living in. I did want to mention, I neglected to say before, please excuse me, I had in my notes, make sure when the evening starts that you should give a warm welcome to the incoming, to new parents of ninth graders. I forgot to, so I'm so sorry, but welcome to our ninth grade parents. It's wonderful to have you here. I hope that you'll feel comfortable and welcome in this community. We are thrilled to have you. And we will be able to answer any questions you have, and I'm sure the longtime parents will be able to kind of help you out as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the school experience. I want to break it into two categories. I want to talk about first I'm going to talk a little bit about the schedule, arrival, and dismissal. So we've sent this information out basically, but I do want to kind of review it with the group. Goes as follows. School day is going to start at 8 o'clock like it always has. And we're going to end school earlier. Now, part of the reason, the primary reason why we're ending school earlier is because school's going to be run much more tightly than it typically is. It means that students are not leaving the campus, as was mentioned. You're not going across the street to Dunkin' Donuts in the middle of the day. You're not going over to the Riverdale Kosher Market, et cetera, et cetera. There are going to be many more restrictions on movement, and we think that is going to be a little fatiguing for teachers and for students. So we're ending the day a little bit earlier. 4:20 is when our school day ends, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. On Wednesday, the school day is going to end at 3:35, one period earlier. Why? Well, let me explain what the theory is behind that. And I'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end, but this is important.
a major part of your SAR experience is not just the extraordinary curriculum, the wonderful teachers, the incredible academic learning that takes place, whether it's in general studies or Judaic studies. There's also the co-curricular activities, the clubs, the sort of fun activities that one will do to round out their experience. Now, we have that in an activity period that takes place typically on Wednesdays in the middle of the day, but it's a much looser kind of environment, the activity period. You can go to a club or you can just hang out. We can't have the just hang out time. So what we did was we decided to end school at 3:35, one period earlier. Students will go home and we'll have an activity period that will take place from at 5 p.m. on those days. Now, does everybody have to participate in the activity period? No. The clubs that will be taking place will typically take place during the activity period, will take place at that time on Zoom. Again, we're doing that as well, not just because we have, there's downtime, but also because many of our clubs are intergrade. So in order to allow for those intergrade clubs to take place, we'll be having them take place on Zoom at that activity period to take place at 5. That's why Wednesday is like that. Fridays, going to go from 8 till 1:30. I'll talk about sports in a moment. If you take a look, I mentioned for Tefillah, BYOS, that's bring your own Siddur. We will not be having, we're not going to be giving out, you're not going to be using the books in the Beit Midrash or borrowing books or even using lockers. This is going to be a bookless, almost bookless kind of experience. You're going to receive books. Those books, you'll be able to take them home, but you're not expected to carry your books around during the day, and you're not going to have, students are not going to have access to the lockers because we feel that the lockers are going to be very difficult to, allow us to maintain a sense of social distancing. So what's going to happen is you'll bring your own, the book that you'll have is your Siddur. And let's be honest, I guess in theory, we could have said you could daven out of your phone, but we all know that when we daven out of our phone, that is not the most conducive to the highest levels of kavanah that we'd like to aspire towards. So everyone should bring their own Siddur. You'll have kids will have in their backpacks, will have an iPad, which will have all of their, all of the information, all of the papers, all of the curriculum that they need, as well as their schedule and all of the apps they need, and they'll have their sitter with them. That's pretty much what you'll be carrying around with you in your backpack. Just so you understand, we do have a rotation, as we said, in order to keep, we have 3 zones in the school, so we have 3 grades in school at a time. Every day, 1 grade is at home. Mondays, it's 12th grade, Tuesdays, it's 9th grade, Wednesdays, it's 10th grade, Thursdays, it's 11th, and on Fridays, there's a separate rotation operating independent of that. That information will be in that welcome back guide. Every single Friday will be listed as to which grade is at home. You'll get that towards the end of this week. That's a little bit about kind of arrival, and let me talk a schedule. Let me talk a little bit about kind of like the arrival and the dismissal. The idea is, just so you know, the expectation is that students really come to school essentially one of 3 ways, but on school buses, through carpools that drop them off on the side of the building, or they will drive themselves or take public transportation or walk. Okay, so those, in order to kind of like minimize traffic flow, to make things work a little more smoothly, what we're going to be doing is that students who are dropped off by the buses are going to have one entrance that they come in directly from the buses into the school, and they'll go straight to their zones. Carpools will drop off at a different door on the side of the building. That's the main door on the side building in the driveway. And those who are driving to school and parking on the streets or taking, otherwise walking to school, they will be entering through the front entrance. Again, showing the Ruvna app, getting into the building, and going to their zone for Tefillah. Okay, I want to explain how Tefillah works. Again, we said bring your own Siddur, but understand, in order to have davening work in school, davening has to be set up a little bit differently. We can't have davening in the large sort of spaces that we've had davening like before, typically with as many people as we've had. So each grade is going to be having, let's say at this point, we're saying 4 different spaces in which they'll be davening. Those spaces will not, in order to accommodate that, we will not be able to have the entire grade, the entire school, davening at 8 o'clock. What that means is the schedule is being worked on right now, but it means that 2 grades will be able to daven at the same time. So we'll have 1 grade each day will have class at 8 a.m. And if you have class at 8 a.m., you'll have davening at 8:40 after that, 8:45 after that class. And if you have tefillah, first period, which is what 2 of the grades will have, then you'll go after your tefillah, you'll have breakfast, and after breakfast you'll go to your first period class. Regarding the women's tefillah, I saw someone just asked that. There's going to be one for each grade. There will be an opportunity for that in each grade. I wanted to show also regarding dismissal, we're going to as well have similarly, kind of organized dismissal as to how students will then go onto their buses, carpools, and leave the building. Singing is not allowed during davening, and davening is also going to be it's going to be quicker than typically it is. Davening is going to, the plan is that, like most shuls are doing now, on days when there is laning, they will be, the Baal Koreh is going to get the aliyahs and is going to lane. No one else is touching the Sefer Torah. We are going to, on days in which there is laning, in order to move things along, we'll be doing a Heichi Kedusha, a shorter Chazaras Hashatz on Mondays and Thursdays. And on every other day of the week, we will be starting at Psukei Zimra at Baruch She'amar instead of at Birchot HaShachar, which will move things along a little more quickly. Our expectation is that davening is going to take about 25 minutes to a half hour. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to say in terms of davening. I'll mention also in terms of mincha. Mincha in the afternoon, we're not breaking into separate mincha locations. Every student will have a Judaic studies class that will meet in the afternoon. And at the end, the last 5 minutes of that Judaic studies class, they will have mincha as part of that class. That minimizes some of the movement and the need to, assemble again in a separate location. Okay, that's what I wanted to share in terms of schedule, arrival, and dismissal. I want to talk a little bit about inside the classroom and then outside the classroom. Inside the classroom, I want to mention that this is, as Ray Hartstruck said, it was looking great. Really, if I'm a betting man, I'm not a betting man. If I were a betting man, I'd say we're going to keep these larger classrooms once COVID-19 has been, once we have the vaccine and things go back to normal. But the classroom feels good. The classroom is a good feeling classroom. It is larger though. So if you take a look though, I think that some students, some teachers will need a little assistance, will want some assistance. We've purchased, if you look on the side there, we've purchased these little headsets that amplify a teacher's voice. Some people like using those, some people will not like using those, but we've been playing around with them and they're great. I think they'll be a nice feature. Keep in mind that some people had asked in the chat as well about Zooming from home. Every class is going to be outfitted to be able to, for students to be able to learn remotely. We do not want students, here's one of the realities of SAR High School that we lament sometimes, which is because there are attendance requirements and residency requirements. Sometimes the very conscientious student who's worried about missing some school will come to school even when he or she may not be feeling all that well. Whereas that may have been something that we lamented in the past, but actually, frankly, did not issue any kind of policy about. That's unacceptable this year. And so in order to make sure that that works well, students who are not feeling well are encouraged, please go stay home. You're not considered to be absent. Log on to Zoom. Every teacher, when their class starts, Their class they will be teaching, what I assume is almost most of their students will be in the classroom, but certainly it's quite possible that there will be students at home, and that will be, we've gotten good at using Zoom for that. I also want to mention that there is that's sort of like the accommodations for the reality that we're living in. But in addition, we should point out that school's going to be normal also. You're going to have the Beit Midrash, as we said, is being carved out as a neutral zone, meaning grades will be signing up to use the Beit Midrash at a specific time. There will never be more than one grade in there at a time, or one class in there at a time, just to make sure it maintains social distancing. But students will be able to have the experience of learning in the Beit Midrash during the day. We will have fellows who will be able to learn with students. As we said, these teachers will be able to walk around the classroom with their masks on as long as it's a very, very short period of time. Generally, they'll be staying towards the front of the classroom. Students will be allowed to come to the board to write something on the board. They'll be required to wipe off the marker that they'd be using. So to a large extent, classroom is going to feel as normal as it would typically be in many, many respects. I want to talk a little bit about, outside of the classroom. Now, before I get there, I got to emphasize, and we've said it a million times, and we're going to say it a million times. Mask wearing protocols are what it is all about, and students are going to have to abide by it. We're going to be enforcing it, and don't feel bad enforcing it, and I don't feel like it's punitive. A student who cannot abide by it is able to go home and learn on Zoom. That is an opportunity they can take advantage of. The entire process, the entire program here will fall apart if students and teachers are unable to manage the process of mask wearing. We're 110% committed to making sure that it works well. And that's, the teachers are going to maintain that sense of kind of mask wearing protocols within their classroom. There also is life outside the classroom that I want to talk about. Okay, life outside the classroom involves sort of like when I say movement, I'm talking about moving between classes in a way that is organized, but is not a way in which they're going to be maintaining 6 feet between each person. As I would go from room 301 to 303, I will walk up, move to that room, sit down in my desk, and I'll be socially distant from the person sitting next to me. I will be masked the entire time as I walk, but the expectation is that kids are not allowed to touch each other. There is no fist bumping, elbow bumping, chest bumping, whatever sort of bumping takes place, that will not be taking place. And instead, kids will walk normally to their classrooms and they'll sit down, but they will move between classes, again, masked. We will be having physical education. We think that this is critically important. Kids are going to need to get up. They're going to need to move. Our phys ed department is working diligently again. There's not going to be a locker room. They're not going to change. They're not going to be playing basketball with each other. There's going to be a sense of kind of exercise, some walking outside, and it's going to be a chance to really be able to get up and stretch and move and breathe. And that's something that we think is really important. I want to talk about lunch for a second. One of the most underutilized spaces in our school is the beautiful field that we have at the top of the parking lot. I'm going to guess that there are very few parents on this Zoom call who have ever been at that field. And I'm going to assume that, many kids even haven't been there. We've got to get people there. We're setting up, lunch will be served. People will be able to not serve. People will be eating their lunches outdoors and at that space, as well as in the gym and the hockey rink. Those are spaces, large open air spaces where we will have everything socially distanced, marked up where people can eat. At those spaces, when you are eating, of course, you will take your mask off, but again, they will be socially distanced. Our hope is that with good weather, we will be able to keep most of that outdoors. I do want to mention that there also will be within the school, there are some of the things that make up what makes SAR unique and vibrant and different. We will have our Beit Midrash classes. We're going to continue having our health classes. We're going to continue having advisory. All of these things that are so SAR will continue to happen when we open up school, as well as the co-curricular activities that I had mentioned. It is critically important that we also keep an eye on the students' social emotional health. And for that, we have our school psychologists are working diligently along with our GLCs. And I'm happy to announce we've actually hired 2 new mental health professionals who will be working with GLCs this year, and as well as our school psychologist. We've hired Dr. Yoni Mandelbaum, who as a guidance counselor will be working with 9th and 10th grade and the GLCs in the 9th and 10th grade. And we've hired Shoshana Marcus, who's an MSW, who will be working with GLCs and 11th and 12th grade, as well as 11th and 12th grade students. Adding to the social emotional support and the thinking that goes on in this regard in schools, something we thought was really important. And again, the indefatigable Yoram Rashwab and the Student Activities Department will continue to be running student activities throughout the year. That's pretty much outside the classroom. What I did want to say, I should have mentioned, I will say just a couple more things, just like technical points. I think it's perhaps well already understood, there will be no visitors in school. We're not having guests during school. There will be essential work, elevator breaks down, something like that. We have a repairman needs to come in. These people will be coming, but generally school is going to be off limits to visitors. And in terms of the elevator, I guess seniors are not going to be pleased with this. I'm sorry to report to the seniors that the typical elevator privileges are not being provided. The elevator is only being used by people who need to use the elevator. The people who cannot take stairs, those are the only people who will be using the elevator this year. We just can't have it any other way. Sorry to the seniors. I know that's something you looked forward to. We will make it up to you. That's what I want to talk about in terms of the outside the classroom. I wanted to, at this point, hand it off to our own nurse, Russi Bone.
Hi, everyone. I know this is a lot. I hope everyone's okay with all the information. There are just a few things before I talk about what's on the slide. I just wanted to clarify. The app that we're using for students to fill out before school will also have an area where you can input their temperature. So yes, we are requiring temperatures before they enter the building, but it's going to be on the app. Okay, as many students know where my office is on the 2nd floor, because we feel that my office should be near an entrance and an exit. So if someone's sick, we're very near where they can exit the building. They don't have to walk through the whole building. And B, if one of these essential workers does come in the building, I will be screening them and taking their temperature with a no-touch thermometer. So I should be near the entrance as well. I have 2 locations this year. I have a regular office on the 1st floor, and I also have a second area that I'll explain in a minute. The first office is my regular office, medication administration, first aid, etc., all that kind of stuff. I will be putting signage on the floor of the office as well as right outside of the office to make sure that the kids social distance as they wait for me. And I will indicate to them that the hanging out has to be to a minimum. They can't just stay in my office. So that's also going to be something a little different. The other area is also going to be on the 1st floor in one of the rooms a little further down the hallway. And that's for if someone gets sick. So if somebody is symptomatic during the day, if somebody has a fever, develops a cough, develops a sore throat, I'm going to take that student straight into this other area. This other area is going to be equipped with full PPE. And as was said earlier, Later this month, I am being trained by Northwell to collect COVID samples, obviously with parental consent, and I'll be able to put in the diagnostic codes, and somebody from Northwell will come and pick it up. And we are hoping that our turnaround time will be 24 to 36 hours. This is obviously so parents don't have to, leave in the middle of their workday, come pick the kids up, go somewhere, wait 7 to 10 days, whatever the turnaround time is. I will be able to do it on site for anyone symptomatic in the building during the school day. Sorry, hold on one second. Okay. The other thing that we're going to be testing for along with COVID is we're also going to be testing for, we're going to be doing a whole respiratory viral panel. And that's going to also let us know that if we were COVID negative, hopefully it could tell us what your child has. And that will prove to be also be very, very helpful. As soon as the students are not feeling well, I'm going to instruct them in the beginning of the year when we have grade meetings that they should come to my office right away, whether they think it's something real, whether they think it's something that they can probably push through. I'd rather them just come, and I'd rather check them out and look at them, and then we can figure out what to do. That also goes for at home. I think that I really rely on your partnership. If a student's not feeling well, because all of our classes are going to be Zoom capable, like Zoom setup, I think that the best thing to do is, when in doubt, either stay home, call your pediatrician, or seek medical help, or just give them a day. I really need your partnership on that. Finally, I just want to make sure I covered everything. I just want to say also that for those of you who know me, you know that I'm super available to your students during the day, to your children during the day. For those of you who don't know me, I'm telling you, I'm always available to your students during the day, but I'm also here for you. So in the morning, if your child wakes up or someone in the family wakes up and you don't know what to do, please feel free to give me a call, write me an email. I'm happy to talk it through with you. I'm happy to figure out a plan. Don't be a stranger. Don't feel like you're bothering me. Please, please, I really, really encourage the partnership and the communication. And I think that's all.
Rabbi Hartstock, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things by way of closing. First of all, I just wanted to say once more that in case all of this information is hard to take in all at once, or the questions that you have, I want to remind you that a welcome back guide has been put together, and you should be hopefully receiving it before Shabbat this week. It will have all of what we shared, plus a lot more. And I want to stress that what we have shared tonight and what's in the document, all of this is a dynamic process. Obviously, the world is a very fluid state right now, and as said at the beginning, the idea is to be as flexible as flexible in the sense of being able to react to the different circumstances. And also, what we have shared with you, the work is far from done. There's a lot more to do, and so that book that we're going to share will be a dynamic one. So I encourage you to read it, and then be on the lookout for more information as the summer continues. A couple of the things that we're going to be working on next. One of the things I saw in the chat that was raised about bus transportation, about the buses. So, for example, we are working on setting up there is a product out there, a camera system in the buses, just not to, there is a need for some big brothering here, which is to say we're not going to be sitting in a monitor and watching all the bus cameras at once. But we do hope, that is the plan. That's one of the things to say that we're working on, is to have those in all of the buses such that if there is a problem or a student that's not following, we're going to be able to tell students, you need to, we can check the video too. You got to be able to, if you want us to ride the bus, you got to follow the rules. So that's one aspect, something that we're working on. I recall I mentioned the outdoor and communal spaces, figuring out how to manage that and what the right structures are to put in place. Some of the protocols I mentioned in the chat for wiping down desks in between. These are things that kind of as we keep drilling further down to make sure that all of these processes are put in place. And that's some of the work that's going to be happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. I do want to draw, kind of draw your attention now, I guess, that when you get it, the guidebook, we are hoping to include in that document a community pledge. We will end with what we started, how important it is. It is vitally important for the well-being in every way, in order for school to happen, in order for our kids to be able to grow as they should, in order for everybody to be able to stay safe. So much is riding on our collective commitment, and there will be a community pledge in the guidebook that says, we here all commit to, and it's all the things that we've been talking about, taking masks seriously, etc. Someone had asked in the chat whether behavior out of school matters. Yes, emphatic yes. What it makes a difference. Everything now is, we're all in it together to be able to make sure that this works. What happens out of school and what happens in school is central to making our program and life work as best as possible. I want to lastly just encourage again, I know it's tough to get our kids into the habit of practicing wearing masks, but it is one of those things that if you starting with half-hour a day, or have an opportunity to go out and wear it a little bit more, I think it's going to make all the difference in terms of being ready for school. I want to just close by expressing tremendous hakarat tov. To our administration and the faculty, to the lay leadership, to the architectural committee, to the doctors who've been helping us out, to the tech team, to Nick and his team, to everybody, and to all of you, parents. This is an amazing community, and grateful to be able to, if we have to take this journey, grateful to be able to do it together with all of you. Wishing you good health, the opportunity to enjoy some summer, and we look forward to being in touch in a couple of weeks from now. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Have a great night.